Is it recording? Okay, cool. Hi, Internet. So, basically, today I will be filming the... Fuck it. We'll be reviewing the film and DVD adaptation of the 2015 Australian film Holding the Man, based on the memoirs of Tim Connigrave. It tells the story of Connigrave and his great love, John Callio, across 3 different decades as they deal with the obstacles of forbidden love, infidelity, the HIV and AIDS crises, and eventually their impending deaths and how they deal with each of these issues as they come. Okay, so it was helmed by Candy director Neil Armfield and adapted from the original novel in format to film by screenwriter Tommy Murphy, who also incidentally adapted the book to the stage 9 years prior to this film's release. The structure of the film's plot immediately departs from the chronological structure of the memoir, instead jumping back and forth through time to establish key plot points such as the boy's HIV positive diagnosis much earlier in the film than there would have been otherwise. Personally, I thought this is a really interesting decision, as I feel it removes the to paraphrase Neil Armfield, the dread and anticipation approaching John's impending deaths. Of course, they then just jump backwards in time to the university days where the AIDS crisis has only just recently emerged. And Armfield and Murphy apparently deliberately chose to do this because they wanted to capture the feeling of, like, you know, no one saw it coming, it just sort of happened, it was spontaneous. The timing of Holding the Man's release is also pretty interesting, particularly in regards to the political climate at the time. Australia is still in political turmoil over marriage equality and LGBTQ+ rights. Obviously, queer people and same-sex relationships are much more widely accepted now. People in same-sex relationships can walk down the street holding their partner's hand without being attacked. That's a given in most Western societies, but there's still a divide, and yeah, it's interesting that this film came out when it did because it really promotes more of an open mindset. Tim and John's relationship is one of the main focuses of the film, and it's not only meant to show their story, but also is meant to show the struggles that this couple went through, and it has amazing amount of relevance to all couples, really. The other focus is the promotion of the awareness for HIV and AIDS, since it's once again being talked about in greater detail amongst both. One of the other main focus points is the promotion of awareness for HIV and AIDS, since it's once again being talked about in greater detail amongst both intellectuals and in everyday conversation, and scientists apparently getting closer to manufacturing a cure thanks to being able to remove the virus's DNA from living tissue. Also, another point, we're seeing the stigma slowly disappear as this awareness is becoming more and more apparent and accepted by the wider community outside of the queer community. What I really love about this movie is that the cast and crew have such a love and reverence for the real Tim and John, the book, and have such great dedication in telling their story and promoting and supporting everything that it stands for, such as equality, HIV awareness, all that. And yeah, the director, Neil Armfield, admitted that he wanted to adapt the memoir to film pretty much straight away after reading it, so you can really see that he's gone to great lengths to make sure that it's as faithful to the book as is practically possible. Obviously, having to work within the constraints of the time that they have to put the film out there, the availability of certain things, things that are inherently more novelistic than filmic. Ryan Court and Craig Stott, the actors who play Tim and John respectively, are completely and utterly dedicated to their portrayal of these characters. Ryan in particular captures Tim's flamboyant, dramatic, unfiltered, very actory character and personality. Because as some will know from the interviews with him and Craig Stott, Tim was truth at all costs. He was a mover and a shaker. He very much wanted to put everything out there. He didn't bother about trying to filter himself, which Ryan Court definitely captures here. And Craig's portrayal of John is a bit more grounded, a bit more realistic than his portrayal in the book, which I really engaged with and thought was amazing. Tim obviously adored John and put him on a bit of a pedestal, even though everyone that has spoken out in interviews, all of the actors have talked to, has said that everyone loved John, that he was an angel and perfect and etc. But yeah, I think it's good to give him a more human element and show that he does have flaws. They have such an amazing chemistry with each other, which really makes this love story work in the context of the film. And it's especially heartening to hear that they did actually have such dedication to building that sort of relationship in real life. Like, for all intents and purposes, they did essentially become a couple. Experiencing like the awkwardness of same-sex couples without, you know, exactly being them. Which my only criticisms of the film version is that it does shift focus away from many of the supporting characters who have interesting dialogues and side storylines with the boys, like Tim's siblings, certain friends from university, and Nida, and of course Tim's many other lovers. In regards to all of Tim's lovers, it's really only touched upon and it's not really explored in much depth. So the film version, obviously he doesn't know that this is going to happen, and he doesn't realise the consequences of his actions. But yeah, after reading the book, I did find myself having moments where I did judge Tim a little too harshly based on all these affairs and random hookups that he had whilst both being with John and whilst he was broken up with him. And the film version really doesn't take into account that they did have more of an on-again, off-again relationship prior to their diagnosis, so that's something interesting to think about. But at the end of the day, no one's to blame for this. It's easy to judge Tim for his promiscuity during his earlier years, but like, he, like many other gay men of his time, was tragically innocent and ignorant of what all the casual sex he was engaging in would lead to. And as Murphy states, really the disease and the epidemic is to blame for all these deaths and misery. Overall, Holding the Man is an incredibly respectful take on the original text and remains faithful to the overall plot of the memoir and the portrayal of these characters and their tragic love story. It resonates with people and couples of all walks of life, and it's cool to recognise the needs for equality. I give this a score of 8.5 out of 10. And that's me done. So, yeah, love you, leave you, whatever, bye.